And I just want to touch upon the tips that you've given us so far and get a little bit more information from you, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first one was, the most recent one that you posted was the power of you and the importance of connecting directly to your reader, talking directly to them. So tell us a little bit about how you know what to say and what you say.
Well, a lot of it is just not writing in third person, not being like, the person will do this, or it sounds too clinical. Like we're just used to kind of doing that. And so you create what's called a client avatar in your mind, which is your ideal client, like what that person looks like, what their job is. You have this person like imagined in your mind. And then when you're writing copy, you speak directly to that person. So it's like, you're struggling with this and you're looking for answers, so that you're really trying to connect with that individual person, because a lot of people will be pretty much that ideal client.
Right. Yeah. And then you get to know your client so well that it's almost like talking to someone you know in real life. I used to have 2 client avatars, and I had literally like 4 or 5 pages written down of each, and I named them and I gave them an age. And so that way I knew exactly what was going on in their life, and I could speak directly to their struggles and their pain points. So getting really clear on that is important, especially in copywriting.
Yeah. And you can get into different Facebook groups if it's like parents that are your target audience. Maybe it's moms with young babies. You get into those groups and you see what words they're using and what phrases they're saying. And you basically copy that to your copywriting.
Right. You mirror their lingo.
Yeah. Because it really, then they connect with it because that's exactly their words,
And I've had people write to me and be like, oh my gosh, that last post or this one thing that you wrote, it was almost like you were looking at me through my screen and talking directly to me. And that's how you know you nailed it.
Yeah.
That's how you know you nailed the lingo and you nailed, that speak.
Yeah.
It resonated with them. Yes. And then it makes it much easier to convert them into a client.
Mm-hmm.
Because they feel like they have a relationship with you because you understand where they're coming from. So
yeah.
All right, the next one was, and you did a couple posts about search engine optimization, so SEO, and the importance of using SEO in your copywriting. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is and how you do it?
Yeah. And SEO is like a huge topic. That's why I was like, well, I'll do 2 days, but then you just have to kind of stop.
There's a lot. Yeah.
It's definitely a make or break type of thing on web pages. If you're looking for organic searches for people to just type into Google and say, I'm looking for a non-clinical OT job, and what shows up, you want to be one of those, one of those pages if that's if that's the target you're working for. So it's really kind of finding what phrases people will be typing into Google and then getting those phrases onto your website somewhere, and kind of making a strategy so that each page really focuses in on a smaller amount of search terms instead of trying to get every single search term you can think of on one page. Then you won't, Google will be confused about what you're actually talking about.
And then it takes a while. We actually had a company go into our website and do SEO for us, and they said it takes like 6 weeks, I think, to see a real increase in traffic, which is really the reason behind SEO, your search engine optimization on a website, is you're trying to attract your target audience to your website so they can find you. But it's really important as a copywriter.
Yeah. And it's really an experiment. Like you try something for a while, and if it's not pulling traffic, then change a few words and change what you have, rewrite your articles and kind of keep modifying it until you do start to gain that traction.
Yeah. And it's a blog, putting a blog on your website is another great way to do that. Even if nobody's quote unquote seeing it, maybe you don't have a lot of audience reading it, it's still using the words from your blog in your search engine optimization. So so it works double duty.
It's also showing Google that you're updating it and it's accurate, or it's not saying it's accurate. I guess anybody can write a blog.
True.
But it's updated and information, and it's always being changed. And so kind of, that's one of the benchmarks of websites. If it's never changed, then Google kind of assumes that maybe it's dead and it's an abandoned website. So it'll rank it lower. But if you're always updating it and always adding to it, and then you get traffic on it, it kind of tells Google, like, this is useful. Let's bring it up in the search.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So then you talked a little bit when you first started posting about what exactly copywriting is. And what you said was that it leads people to action and attracts your target audience. So what do you mean by leads people to action?
That's kind of really the difference between just content writing and copywriting. You can write an article that's just for information, and that would really be content writing. You're just writing informative pieces. But copywriting is informative, and then there's a call to action, which is the other piece that you always want to add. That's on one of the other days I talked about. But it's like you're leading them into something. You're giving them information and helpful stuff, and then you're saying, and now here's what you do with it. Here's your next step. You always bring them to that next step, whatever that might be.
Yes. Yeah. And there's actually a copyright training that we did on Teachable. And I talked a lot about how copywriting is not the place where you want to be vague. When you put your call to action within your copy, you want to make sure you're telling them directly what you want them to do, and you're very clear, because confused minds don't convert. When people are confused, customers don't buy. So, it's very important to have a very clear, targeted call to action that gives them the next step. So,
and not a lot of choices either.
Because it's not a lot of choices.
Article and you're like, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. They're like,
too much. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's like how my brain works all the time. I need someone when I read copy and I'm learning about something, I need something to be very clear and lead me down the path so that I don't veer off into who knows where I will go. But and then the other thing I was wondering if you delve into a little bit more was the 3 levels of problems that are faced by your clients.
Yeah. And that I pulled out of the book, Building a Story Brand. And I just love that book. Like I read it for the school when I was writing for them. And then I was trying to read it for myself, but I was also working with clients. And so my brain immediately flipped and just started applying it to them. And I was like, got to read it for myself one of these days and really apply it. But it's looking at kind of that first level problem that you see on the surface. And I think, that's maybe it's knee pain, or maybe it's my kid is struggling with handwriting, or kind of that initial thing that makes people worry a little bit, but it doesn't always lead them to action quite yet. We're good at kind of being like, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
We can live with a lot of discomfort.
Yeah. And then you get to that next level. I don't have the verbiage in front of me, but it's kind of the internal problem. And that's more kind of what you're thinking under the surface. Like if it is your child who's struggling with handwriting, you start to think, if you're inadequate, if they're going to struggle for their entire lives, like, are they going to be called dumb at school because they can't write? It's kind of those like thoughts that are in the back of your mind. And if we can bring those out and speak to the audience with those, they can connect a lot better. And they're like, oh, I'm not the only one feeling this way because of this problem. And then it goes like even deeper to kind of a society-wide problem, or the philosophical problem, which is really like our kids, in that example, it might be like our kids getting an adequate education, or are we providing the right not preschool, but preschool activities for them to build all that they need in order to have good handwriting. And so you can connect on that, and it ties that person that you're talking to a much larger problem, so that they know it's not just them who like failed their child or something. It's a much bigger issue. They can buy into that, and it's just you connect on those 3 levels, and it can really help people understand and engage, and then buy whatever it is buy or sign up, or whatever it is you're trying to get them to do.
I love that. I've heard of that book, but I have not had the chance to read it yet. But it's on my list. Thank you for coming into our group, for sharing all of your knowledge and your strategies. If you could leave us with one piece of advice, if we're interested in copywriting, what would it be?
Oh man, I think it would just be that it's like not as scary as you think it is. I was actually just reading in my journal from last year, like last December and January, and just kind of that fear and that second guessing and that insecurity and everything that was going on. I'm like, man, I wish I could step back and be like, it's going to be okay. Just take a step. It's going to be okay. And really it is such a low investment compared to OT school, especially, or a totally different degree or anything. It's a quick thing you can get started. And if you don't turn it into a business, you're still going to use it in your emails, in your messaging with other people. You'll use it. I mean, even if you're selling on Craigslist or the marketplace or something, you can write more effectively and communicate with people better just because of the training.
Yeah, I do feel like healthcare providers almost have an edge when it comes to copywriting because we naturally are empathetic listeners and we're naturally tapping into the struggles that people are facing. And our ability to communicate that, I think, makes us powerful copywriters. And I hope more people with our backgrounds and have that patient-facing experience, I hope more do go into copywriting because I think it would be fantastic.
Yeah. And that was actually one of the emails I got recently from Neil Patel, who's like a big wig in the industry of copywriting and marketing. And kind of what he was saying for SEO going forward is you have to have some sort of like really unique message, like personal experiences. And that's how you want to write in order to rank above all these other blogs and web pages and stuff. And I was like, that's exactly what therapists bring. Like,
absolutely.
Nobody else can make up a story that is what actually happened during that treatment where everything went bananas, like,
I mean, I don't know about you. Like, I can read an article that's say about sensory processing or something that's very within our scope, and I can tell if it's somebody who actually knows it or if it's somebody who researched it for the article and doesn't have any actual experience with it.
Yeah.
And that's our edge. That's our edge right there. So, yes. Where can we connect with you?
I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Also, it's all Krista Frahm Agency.
Okay.
It's pretty simple. I tried to keep it very simple across all platforms.
Very
and
cool.
My website is also kristaframagency.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I don't see any questions coming in, but sometimes they will ask later. So I'll make sure I pass them along if they do. And Krista is actually going to give me all of her tips in one file so that I can upload it all together too, so that it's easily accessible to anybody who wants to see everything in one place. So, and I think you're going to hang out for a little bit longer in the group, right?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
I think in total, I was going to do 12 days of copywriting, and with traveling and with sickness and whatnot, I'm a little behind on the 12. And I was like, well, we'll just stretch it out a little bit longer.
Stay as long as you want. We love having you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will let you go. I know you have a lot going on at home right now.